Hello and welcome to the second video of this series of videos hosted by ADSA, the Association for Dietetics in South Africa. My name is Michelle Zitzman and this is Mbali Mapoli, and today we will be unpacking some of the pediatric food-based dietary guidelines relevant to complementary feeding. Now, if you want to view the full guidelines, please follow the link in the description box below. So the title of this series is called Family Foods by One, and that is because a major goal of complementary feeding is to give family foods to your 12-month-old child that they can enjoy and that is acceptable to them. And of course, the family foods might need to be adjusted in some way, but repeated exposure to varied and colorful family meals is a key to achieving this goal. So if a family diet is not nutrient dense, this would be a good time to start incorporating a more varied and colorful family menu alongside your infant. So the pediatric food-based dietary guidelines recommend continued breastfeeding as the volume and the frequency of food increases. Now, an infant might start just with a small amount of food at the beginning, and it's important to remember to feed slowly and without force. So Mbali, from the age of 6 months and onwards, the guidelines recommend meat and chicken and fish and eggs to be offered daily or as often as possible. So why is this important?
So the animal products, like you're mentioning them, fish, chicken and meat, are a good source of essential vitamins and minerals. So vitamins and minerals like your iron and your zinc, but also they're a good source of protein. And those are very important for growth and development and also immune support. So what we see is that, for example, iron. So iron is a very important nutrient for the transportation of oxygen in all parts of the body, including the brain. And we see that young children particularly, if they've got iron deficiency, that can impact them negatively and also just later in life. So we want to make sure that they get sufficient iron. And what we know is that for the first 1,000 days of life, for young children, their iron needs are at their highest. So we see that then it becomes even more important to offer these food items to younger children.
Definitely. And for some families, it's not always possible to give animal foods on a regular basis. Yeah. So what would your advice be?
Luckily, there are plant sources of protein, like soya, dried beans, peas and lentils. And these food items are also good sources of your nutrients like your iron. However, we see that when it comes to plant sources of iron, the iron is not as easily absorbed as compared to animal sources. And then the advice with that is always to do food pairings, whereby we pair the iron-rich plant sources with a food item that is high in vitamin C to enhance the absorption of iron. And what we know is that your milk and tea, so when you are consuming milk and tea with an iron-rich food item, that can actually inhibit the absorption of iron. So it's just knowing that you cannot consume tea and milk with an iron-rich food item. And then, so basically when children are offered a plant-based meal, it is important to include these plant protein sources just to make sure that they get good quality protein as well.
And this again just reinforces why diet diversity is so important and to include a variety of foods in every meal.
Yes.
So the guidelines also recommend dark green leafy vegetables and orange colored fruits and vegetables to be eaten every day. How does this benefit a child?
I mean, we speak of eating your rainbow. So dark green leafy vegetables are a powerhouse of nutrients. They are packed with a variety of vitamins and minerals that are important for development, but also just overall good health maintenance for the children. So for example, the popular one, dark green leafy vegetable, would be spinach. It's very easy to grow in our home gardens, and I call it a gift that keeps on giving, because literally you pick the leaves and then the plant can continue to sprout. And then the orange vegetables like your deep orange sweet potato as well, or butternuts, they are a good source of vitamin C, but also they are a very good source of vitamin A, and vitamin A is very popular for maintenance of good eye health. And then so the orange fruits on the other side, like your citrus fruits, your pawpaw, mangoes, very good source of vitamin C as well. So this is telling us that colorful plates, so dark green leafy vegetables and orange fruits and vegetables, are important. And what we see is that buying seasonal is beneficial. Not only what we get during that season offers the nutrients that we need the most during that season, but it's very economical, and we live in difficult economic times right now. Yeah.
Emphasizing variety of foods just shows us again that different foods have different nutrient contents, which at the end of the day give us this accumulative good sources of different types of nutrients. So it's not enough for a child to just meet their macronutrient needs, which is your protein, carbohydrates, and fats, but they also need to meet their micronutrient needs, which are the vitamins and minerals, because this is also crucial to the prevention of malnutrition and disease.
Yeah.
So a key message throughout the guidelines is frequent hand washing before food preparation. So food hygiene and clean and safe water is also very important to reduce the risk of diarrhea, which can cause malnutrition and also disease.
Yeah.
Do you have any other recommendations just to again reduce the risk for diarrhea or for any illnesses related to what the food the children take in?
Yeah, no, there are few strategies, but the simple ones is just to keep the kitchen tidy. So, it's wiping and cleaning the kitchen counters to make sure that where we are preparing the child's food, it's nice and clean. But also how we handle frozen foods. You find that people just put it in the sun to let it defrost. Never ever put food in the sun to let it defrost. Very important to either put it in the fridge overnight so that it's nicely defrosted, but not just to leave it hanging in the kitchen counter for hours to end. But also we see a lot of illnesses, and especially childhood, as we're saying, diarrhea and those type of illnesses that are related to bacteria come from cross-contamination. So when we are handling your meat and fresh produce, and it's just, there are no clear lines as to what are we using for what here. So it helps to use color-coded chopping boards and knives to know this is for fresh produce, this is for meats. But I do think that not everyone can have, a variety of color-coded chopping boards. So it helps to, in between, to wash thoroughly. So after you've used a knife and a chopping board for your meat, wash it thoroughly before you use it for your fresh produce. Another thing that is common is with regards to the storing of leftovers. It's or any food for that matter that needs to be stored well in the fridge. Remove it from the kitchen, or don't leave it at room temperature for hours. We say max 4 hours, but food must be stored well and put in a fridge in a tight container. That not only helps with the prevention of bacterial growth, as we're talking about, but also just reducing food waste. So those are the things that we can do. And then water. So just using clean, safe water. Generally, our tap water is safe to use, but if you're unsure, you can boil water to make sure that water that is used to make food for the child is clean and safe.
The recommendations for toddlers aged 12 to 36 months have additional guidelines that were not included here, but they do include encouraging your child to be active, giving them 5 small meals a day. Starch is part of most meals, and giving them milk, mass, or yogurt every day. And the recommendations for the amount of that is about 500 ml, just to ensure adequate calcium intake for optimal bone development. So thank you so much, Mbali. We will now go over to Rita Harmse, who will be demonstrating a recipe to us.
So for recipe number 2, we'll be making oats that's fortified with eggs, apple, and cinnamon. Oats can be given from 6 months of age and increased in nutrient quality by incorporating proteins such as eggs. Eggs are an economical source of protein and can very easily be whisked together, and at the end of your cooked oats, just incorporated. So the amazing thing about adding the whisked egg is it doesn't increase the volume as much, so your baby won't have difficulty finishing the meal. Also, when you incorporate the grated apple as well as the cinnamon, your baby has more flavors that you expose them to, and they're more likely to consume other foods when introduced later. Oats, egg, apple, cinnamon, the final product. To recap this recipe, you have your cooked oats in your pot, you whisk an egg together. Towards the end of cooking, you add the whisked egg together, mix well so that the egg is cooked and not raw. After that, you add your grated apple and a sprinkle of cinnamon, and that is recipe 2.